Okay, I know I've gone on at length about this film, so I'm going to try to keep this video shorter. This is all about formal features in the film Cleo. What I want you to do is pause your videos and see if you can list some of the formal features that really stuck out to you and what you think their significance is and what they add to the movie. Okay, let me talk about a few of the things that I find really significant. I think from the editing to the music, especially to the camera shots and the mise en scène, the photography of the film, the formal features contribute in an amazing way to all and reinforce all of the philosophical themes. I'm going to try to be brief, I promise. I'm just going to give you a few of them. There's an early scene when Cleo is leaving the fortune teller early on, and she gets this diagnosis, or she sees the card of death, and she thinks that she has been condemned. This is her in despair and her in an existential crisis. And the editing of this film, this scene, there's these jump cuts in this scene that are really incredible and show and make evident to the viewer her subjective disorientation and her feelings of self-destruction and how she is losing her grip on reality. I think the editing, the jump cuts there, really contribute to understanding what Cleo's existential crisis is. The biggest thing I love about this film is the mise en scène. The arrangement of the images on the screen is absolutely stunning. Fardad, the director, was actually a photographer. And I think so many shots of this film are almost just like perfect photographs. It is stunning. Like, look at the way in which objects are treated as deeply significant. Here we see the toys in Cleo's room, and that contributes to this conception of her as a child. And each object is given screen time as if like this is telling us something about who Cleo is, about what her philosophical position is. The objects and symbolism, the meaning of these things as symbols, is given to us because they are sort of photographed as still lifes by the camera. It's amazing. Or look at the way in which we see this shot of Cleo's wig after she's tossed it off, and it's left here hanging on this mirror. So we have the juxtaposition of two of these key symbols given this still representation. Like, we are told, because the film just takes a minute, pauses on this as another still life, we are told, like, think about this. What does this mean? She has just cast aside this wig and thrown it with this image, this device for reproducing the surface level appearances of her. What does that mean? Because this is the heart and soul of the film. Or one other way in which the camera work is really essential is the fourth wall is broken throughout this film. So in that, if you're not familiar with that terminology, the fourth wall is when characters within the diegesis literally look at the camera. And traditionally speaking, that's something you shouldn't do because it makes you conscious of the camera, and therefore it's the artifices of filmmaking. Whereas traditional standard filmmaking techniques try to make the diegetic world completely natural and lifelike and real, or real seeming, and make us forget the fact that we're watching some actors in front of a camera. So looking at the camera, sort of breaking this fourth wall, is sort of a no-no, but it's something that we saw Godard do in Breathless, and Varda does it to amazing effect here, because this does two things at once. It makes us feel like Cleo is being looked at. So I read some of these shots as subjective shots of Cleo. So what we're getting literally is Cleo's perspective. And we see these people and their penetrating eyes, objectifying us as the character Cleo. And we understand her objectification through these gazes of these other characters, both male and female characters, the ways in which she's looked at in the film. But then at a whole nother level, it makes us feel like we, the audience, are being looked at as well. And we understand how this journey of Cleo's can be a symbol for our oppression or other forms of social normativity that might constrain us, and how we, the characters, could be in the place of Cleo as well. That Cleo's fight and Cleo's journey is in some ways ours as well. And we are invited in perfect Beauvoirian fashion to take up this universal mantle and fight the fight along with her, along with Cleo. Okay, my single favorite shot of the film is this one. This just runs by, and you might not have noticed this whatsoever. It's amazing. Look, for one thing, look how beautiful this is, where we have this is like classical photography. The scene is divided into thirds vertically. We have the character over here on the third line, and then this character over here on the third line. And what is this? this is a little boy playing the piano. Notice Cleo was in black hair. This is after her emancipation. This is her fighting for herself in the new world. She is leaving behind, literally speaking, leaving behind, but of course, metaphorically leaving behind the forces that oppress her in her apartment. Raoul and Bob and Jose and Angel, all of those forces of oppression. And she is now going out to fight her own way, clad in black. Well, this, of course, the piano player is now infantilized. It's a total reversal of what was happening in the previous space when she was indoors. And if you listen to the soundtrack, I swear this is what is happening. The little child is playing in like this with his little fingers, tapping out the melody tune that was the melody of the song previously. So he is literally now given the role of the piano player. He is the character of Bob, but this is infantilized Bob who is playing on the tiny little child's piano. So we have a complete reversal of perspective now, where she is becoming empowered and fighting, and we see Bob for what he is. That he is the problem. He is what is being shown to be disempowered. He is literally tiny. Look how little this is. The photography, the staging of the perspective here makes this the tiny little object now. He is diminished because this is her story and she is going to be the champion now. This one image is like a perfect photograph and is so philosophically deep, in my opinion. Let me just give you some other of my favorite shots of the film. Of course, mirrors. Everybody in film loves mirrors. It has an amazingly long history, far before the French New Wave. Another famous Orson Welles film, The Lady from Shanghai, has incredibly famous mirror shots that do stuff just like this. But look at the way in which it so perfectly melds form and content in this film, because it is Cleo's objectification. She is looking for acknowledgement here for the images, and that is why she is in despair, because she will not get acknowledgement from the own image of who she is supposed to be according to society, when she is just trying to live up to those ideals. And it doesn't matter how many times she is reflected for herself. It is always going to be fail, and this is going to be existential despair. That is, in a sense, why Antoine, another human being, can be a source of acknowledgement, not this social image of her. This is just a beautiful shot and uses the theme of mirrors in a wonderful philosophical way. Another one of my favorite shots, this is just beautiful photography. All of these hats on stands, and we see in which, these are the populating the world are these trappings of couture which surround her and which call to her and which keep her encaged. Almost, yeah. I mean, these things are like a cage, and but at this point in the film, this is what she dreams as fulfilling to her, whereas actually it's the opposite. One other key thing that happens in the formal features, okay, two more. I said I was going to be brief. I'll be really short. The theme of revolution comes up in many ways throughout the film, and that again ties to these Beauvoirian themes. It ties to the character of Antoine. But if you listen to the radio, Varda is doing this diegetic, non-diegetic sound effect that we also saw in Breathless, where what's playing on the radio is inside the diegesis, but there's this metafilmic commentary that it's providing at the same time. It's talking about colonialism and oppression and revolt in Algeria. So it builds this theme of revolution and the fight for liberation in a political way, which is, of course, deeply Beauvoirian, because Beauvoir saw the ways in which oppression functions in different realms, has all sorts of structural similarities. So the theme of revolution, I invite you to think about the other ways in which the film intersects that. Lastly, the only other thing I'm going to talk about here is this theme of superstition. If you want to try to puzzle out superstition, I'm going to give you this blank slide to pause your videos if you'd like. Think about how superstition functions in the film, because I think it's really interesting. It's puzzling. It's wonderful because it's not obvious, and it really requires us to think about it. Okay, now I'm going to talk about it. I think you see superstition come up in a ton of different places. We see the broken mirrors, the broken windows. The characters talked about being cursed. But of course, the film starts with the tarot card reading. And it seems like, according to Cleo, that superstition enforces destiny, that there is fate. And I think that is part of her limited perspective at the beginning of the film. And that, again, is the way in which superstition functions as a symbol for social normativity and the social constructs that can oppress us, be the forces of oppression. And fighting against superstition, not feeling condemned and in despair just because she was dealt certain cards at the tarot table, is precisely what enables her to not feel despair when she is dealt the cards by science and told that she has cancer at the end of the film. So, uh, so I hope you see in which the way superstition is supposed to be a metaphor throughout the whole film. If you go back and watch the film again, everything that is foretold by the tarot cards actually is true. So this is the way in which I think superstition is incredibly complex in the movie, because it's not like the movie just rejects superstition as mere hocus pocus. In a sort of fascinating way, the tarot cards were right. She does have cancer. She does, you know, have to face another woman who's a questionable influence. So this is Angèle, of course. She does then result, she meets a kindly, generous man. Everything, if you look back at the tarot cards, they literally foreshadow the entire movie. And that makes superstition this duality, this complex sort of symbol in the film. Even look at the way in which the characters are talking about superstition. The illness, oh my goodness, the illness, she has cancer, like this cursed word. This is, of course, true. This is the lady, the woman giving the tarot card reading. She says, you're going to meet a talkative young man. That's Antoine. The cards spell death. I saw cancer. So this is all right. It's hilarious. It's fascinating. And of course, notice this. This is where the formal features are thrown in our face. This is in color, but the rest of the film is in black and white. So what is this telling us? Clearly, this is deep and significant. These are non-trivial choices by the filmmakers. So we are told, this is the film which ultimately rewards rewatching and paying attention to every detail, because we have been told explicitly here that every detail is worth thinking about. Did you figure out what all this coloration means in these tarot cards? Look, the Hanged Man, this means change, a complete transformation of your whole being. Here we get foreshadowing Cleo's major transformation. And you see the topsy-turvy way in which this is. I think this really connects with the black and white imaging that I talked about previously, where Cleo changes her white clothes for black. And so that way in which black and white thematically play out in the film, I think connects with the coloration here. In a sense, what the film is telling us is, it starts out with color, and then the diegesis is all black and black and white film stock. It's telling us that is a decision. It is using black and white film stock precisely because black and white creates a meaningful set of symbols in the film. So that is one, I think, thing that Varda is telling us with the use of coloration here. But I think another thing is, the coloration is with these tarot cards. Even the characters, when they're talking about the tarot cards, are not colored. It is the cards themselves. And I think that hints again at this theme that there's coloration in the world, and yet we are not seeing it when we see the world in black and white. So it highlights this theme of perspective and what you see there and what is actually in reality or not. Like the coloration in the cards is like a dimension to reality that is not reproduced in the black and white film stock, but it is there. It is invisible when we see the world in black and white. But it's about our perspective and whether or not you can see these things which are literally shaping your reality, like social norms and gender stereotypes. It is easy to just be blind to them, like the ways in which color stock is blind to the colors of reality. But if you see the world in a different way, maybe with different sunglasses on or something, then you can literally see that there are these norms shaping society. And once you see them, you can start fighting against them. I think that is, so this use of color versus black and white, it goes by early on. It's so easy to not even think about it again. And it yet is so deep and has so many interesting implications. Okay, I said I wasn't going to talk long, so I'm going to stop. Here's just a way in which I've returned to these themes of revolution and superstition to talk again about how I think they support a Beauvoirian reading of the film. This just connects with the other video. Okay, thanks.